Greetings and salutations, Blood Bowl fans! The Treetop Terrors enter their second game with a diving catch skink. However, it seems the Sharp Muggers will be prepared, for they have hired a star player, perhaps hoping that Chainsaw will cut through the hard scales of the Croxagore. Fortune favouring the Sharp Muggers, they won the coin toss, choosing to receive the ball first. In response, Treetop Terrors managed to get a quick blitz from their 5-4-2 formation. The Sharp Muggers in returns wasted no time retrieving the ball from their back lines, even if it was with a more unusual player choice, and then proceeded to start trying to force back the encroaching Saurus. However, they weren't able to prevent the skinks from slipping through, quickly chasing after the ball carrier. It's dangerous to expose the skinks like that, but sometimes you just have to take that risk. While another hole was smashed in the Sharp Muggers' defences by Golden Jaw, the Treetop Terrors' temporary stand-in decided to attempt a blitz to knock one of their players into the crowd, and this shows why skinks are not the most reliable of blitzers. As a mercenary, he has Loner as standard, meaning that reroll was just wasted and eaten up. After a very short turn 2 for the Sharp Muggers, who simply just pulled back some players to start building a cage, the Treetop Terrors really pushed with the offense. Perhaps most importantly, removing the chainsaw from play as Helmet went down to an angry Croxagore. Once again, Uldar proved he is the punchiest skink of the Treetop Terrors. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this little guy is going to go. However, the Sharp Muggers were not to be underestimated. As soon as turn 3 rolled around, they went straight for the skinks and then missed with quite good success. However, there was very little space for the ball carrier to manoeuvre, and now it was just a matter of time until the Treetop Terrors closed in. Though it did cost the Treetop Terrors a remaining reroll, and the Sharp Muggers still managed to catch the ball rather than it getting free, but they weren't going to hold on to it for long. Goldjaw wasting no time smashing it free into the hands of Uldar of the Lake, quickly followed by yet another player being injured by the Croxagore. But thankfully for the Sharp Muggers, it was an unskilled linesman, easily replaceable in the world of Blood Bowl. However, Nuffle seemed to turn on the Lizardmen, with them losing many turns due to just very unfortunately what should have been easy blocks, and eventually it just seemed like there was no chance for this touchdown to happen. Uldar's luck finally running out as he's punched down. However, the Sharp Muggers were unable to keep hold of the ball, sending it spiralling off. Even when it seemed like the luck had turned back in the Lizardmen's favour by a wonderful accurate pass by Talan, a specialised catching skink decided that it was a good time to roll a natural 1. So even with a +1 from accurate pass and a +1 from diving catch, so he had to roll a 2 or more. He failed. But it seems like misery loves company, and the Sharp Muggers too had to expend a reroll just to pick up the ball. The incompetence continuing, even though the Lizard managed to get a few insequential blocks with no real injuries. Their blitz once again resulted in a double knockdown. Once more it fell to Uldar of the Lake to show his larger cousins just how to play the game, finally getting some good hits in here. Not that it mattered, as our specialist catching skink once again failed to pick up the ball. With the first half a washout, but a relatively decent defence by the Treetop Terrors, they began their own offence now, as the Sharp Muggers managed to obtain a perfect defence. However, due to a touchback, this meant that the ball for once ended up in the hands of a Saurus, something that's quite rare and is oh so valuable for those star player points. Especially as the Saurus in question only needed one more to gain his level up. In a somewhat risky manoeuvre, Shaq of the Pyramid carried the ball forward, not wanting to risk getting pinned down in a cage of opponents like what happened in the first half. Thankfully, there was a few of his teammates able to catch up with him, but it was hardly the best protective cage one could ask for. In response, the Sharp Muggers set up a net, Now, this would not be an issue for a skink, but for a Saurus they had no chance of dodging through it. And then the Sharkmuggers sent in one of their own to try a risky block. The great strength of the Saurus, however, meant that I was picking the blocking dice which were rolled, and thankfully the rolls were pretty bad. Still, there's nothing you can do if you get double knockdowns, but in this case, it pretty much saved the Saurus. And that great strength now came into play for the Treetop Terrors, with the Sauruses smashing their way through the defenders like they were nothing but wet paper. Even Ulder decided to join in, gaining yet another knockdown, though at a cost of a precious reroll for the Treetop Terrors. But it was a precious knockdown, finally opening the net around the ball carrier, giving a chance to sneak round and flank the defenders. It wasn't going to go completely the Lizardmen's way, however, as Baron Lotov managed to injure Gar, a costly blow to their team. Perhaps not wanting to risk another turnabout, the Treetop Terrors went straight for the touchdown, putting them in the lead. Perhaps the most important thing from all this being that Goldjaw finally got enough points to level up. The rest of the second half was relatively uneventful, as both teams just crumbled to a bout of incompetence, neither side being able to pick up the ball and constantly getting turnovers over and over again, with hardly an action done. Though this did lead to the dramatic events of Dragonet knocking down the Croxagore even as his leg was shattered, but this rapid succession of failures took its toll on both teams, stealing away opportunity to gain a touchdown or even gain more star player points through various other actions. And as if one more final insult to the Lizardmen, the last blitz of the match resulted in an injury on one of their players. Thankfully, none of those injuries were permanent, however, and the Treetop Terrors entered their next match with the Rancid Plague with a full compilation of the players, including Axel, who's now joined the team permanently. Unlike the Rancid Plague, whose team values seem to have dipped slightly. I'm not entirely certain of what had occurred to them, but they certainly had a rough first few matches. Still, this is a Nurgle team, and they were not to be underestimated. The Treetop Terrors winning the coin toss this time, they chose to receive, however the opponent's Halfling Chef tore away both of their precious rerolls, leaving them in a very awkward position. So in leaving nothing to chance, the Treetop Terrors set out in a very offensive formation, planning to overwhelm the front lines, though in this case the fans beat them to it with a lucky throw, knocking down and stunning Cole Rotterdam. Leading with the Croxagore, it was certainly fortunate that the Croxagore had levelled up and rolled doubles, giving it access to block, a skill normally not available to them. One of the best skills in the game, it certainly made the big guy far more reliable than he was in the past. Not that the Sauruses were being slouches either, with several of them having blocked, they also tore their way through the Rancid Plague's defences. Talan managed to pick up the ball right away, but sadly fumbled his throw. Perhaps his ball was just still a little sticky, because he was throwing so accurately last time. The Rancid Plague's response was relatively feeble, with only a single successful tackle, and picking up most of their players off the floor. Turn 2 turned into an all-out brawl, with both sides just hammering away at the opposition, but given how resilient both of them are, no real progress was made. But it would be the Treetop Terrors who would come out on top. After blitzing away a Rotter who was sneaking around to harass the Skinks, Goldjaw gave them their opening by actually taking out a Chaos Warrior. His regeneration not strong enough to resist the Lizardmen's mighty blow, meaning he would be out of the match, but only with a normal injury and nothing long lasting. With the Rancid Plague lacking anyone close by or fast enough to catch them, the Skinks easily sprinted down the field, giving the Treetop Terrors a turn 4 touchdown, putting them in for that early lead. The Chaos Gods, perhaps annoyed at Nuffle's choice to support the Lizardmen, decided to interfere with a blizzard, making it even harder to pass the ball or sprint, though neither team would probably be doing so. While cautious in their block throwing, the Rancid Plague's Beastmen decided to get a little bit of payback, showing it really is sometimes better to give than receive. Shaq was having none of it, however, and decided to put the Beastmen back on the bench, in a clip that, well, resulted in the firing of the Goblin with the camera. By turn 7, the offense had been completely stunted by the Treetop Terrors, the remaining turns turning into another punch fest between the two teams. In fact, it wasn't until turn 8 of the Rancid Plague that they actually managed to even get into the Treetop Terrors side. The second half soon underway. The Treetop Terrors set themselves up in the 5-4-2 formation to mitigate one of those losses of the rerolls by the Halfling Chefs. However, the brilliant coaching came into play, giving them back their reroll and thus evening things up once more. The match pretty much resumed very much like the first half, with the two teams hammering into one another, but Treetop Terrors, having realised their opponents were quite tough nuts to crack, now decided to start focusing on pushing them into the crowd. Rancid Plague's presence on the field quickly deteriorating, made even worse by Goldjaw's injury on Lord Black Death. Sometimes the only thing saving the Rancid Plague from being knocked down was their foul appearance of their Chaos Warriors. But the Rotters had no such protection, and thus, as they were hammered down one by one, the Treetop Terrors managed to gain their first fatality of the league. By the Catcher Skink of all people. I was really expecting Ulda or maybe the Croxagore to do this, but no, it had to be this guy who already had his fair share of star player points. By the time of the final turn, only a single Rotter and a single Chaos Warrior were left on the field, and the Lizardmen finally managed to pick up the ball, passing it to guess who? A little catcher skink, who actually caught it for once, gaining him yet another touchdown. It's a little worrying just how many star player points are getting loaded into that single player. But it ended the match on a 2-0 in favour of the Treetop Terrors. The rest of Division 1 hasn't been quiet either. The Creepy Champions took an early lead over their Chaos Dwarf opponents. The Spiky Unicorns and Rancid Plague had a hell of a match it seems, with the Elves just getting on top of the Nurgle Worshippers. Wild Huntresses ran away from the Wood Elves of the Hawks, which is quite surprising. Seems like the Amazons had a bit more punching capability than the Wood Elves there. And Mud of the Sun had a fantastic 3-0 victory over the Sharp Muggers. In day 2, however, the rest of the team seemed to be catching up, with the Hawks getting a victory over the Creepy Champions, the Chaos Dwarves also beating the Nurgle Worshippers, meaning Rancid Plague are not doing too well so far in the league. Green Spoons actually managed to get a draw with the Spiky Unicorns. The Wild Huntresses continue their winning streak against the Mud of the Sun. And in day 3, the Wild Huntresses finally had a defeat by the Creepy Champions. The Chaos Dwarves continued their strong comeback. And the Hawks too have been doing very well against the Sharp Muggers. And believe it or not, our halfling rivals here actually managed to get a victory over a different Lizardman team, the Mud of the Sun. That must have been a bit of an embarrassment. However, it did come at a great cost for them. They lost one of their tree men during that match, which might be a blow they cannot recover from. So, as the leaderboards go, we have the Treetop Terrors in first, the Wild Huntresses in second, and the Creepy Champions in third. Sharp Muggers and Rancid Plague haven't got a victory between them, and it looks like so far they may be the team to be pushed out of this division. But we'll have to see how the other divisions are doing so far. In Division 2, Old World rivalries are high, with the Valorous Nobles having a runaway lead, closely followed by their Wood Elves in the Summer Rain. Now it looks like there is a Wood Elf team that's not doing well at all down here. The Eternal Whirlwind look like they're blowing out, and the Cold Swarm have also joined them, though they have at least one victory, so things are a little closer over in this division. Now, Division 3, the Iron Fists have punched their way into a nice solid league, and we have the clear losers here, with the Vampire team having no victories whatsoever. The one that really catches my eye is the Squig Tricksters, sitting very comfortable in the middle with 2 wins to 1 loss. The fact that the Goblins are doing this well really shows that we've got an interesting team here. Though, they did beat a Nurgle team, and a Goblin team beating a Chaos team in any form, which is much stronger than them. Oh, that is definitely something I would have liked to have seen. Last but not least, Division 4, led by the Lingering Caves and Demes, both with 3 victories apiece. And, amusingly enough, both of them have beaten Swamp of the Sun and Amok's Birds as their main victories. However, they've managed to claw back their own victories, leaving the Halflings in last place. Soup has unfortunately lost a Tree Man in their second game, though they did have managed to kill a few of the opposing team. That loss of a Tree Man is going to be pretty damn serious, and Saucy Nap have also been seriously pounded. It's quite clear that these two are not going to be recovered unless the Lizard Men have many more losses. And that's it, that's the league so far. I hope to join you next time we'll be catching the Treetop Terrors match against the Chaos Dwarves.